Let's talk about Bradesco. Bradesco, Bradesco. Yeah, it's pretty close. BBD second quarter of 2025 results. In summary, strong results. That's it. Let's get straight to the point right after the disclaimer. This video is for informational and educational purposes only. It's not a stock recommendation. I'm not a licensed financial advisor. Do not make your investment decisions solely based on an amazing YouTube video. Do your own research or consult a certified professional before making any investment decisions. Bradesco reported a profit of 6.1 billion reais, which represents nearly a 30% year-over-year increase. And if you compare the first quarter of this year to the second quarter, the bank also managed to grow its profit by 3.5%. Not very expressive, but it signals that the bank's recovery plan is working. BBD's return on equity, or better yet, return on average equity, or even return on adjusted equity. They're not the same, but both aim to isolate one-off effects on equity. Well, we have a return on adjusted equity of 14.6%, a solid increase in profitability driven by a combination of operational improvements and benefits from transformation plans. When the new CEO took over, he said, "Folks, we are going to undergo a restructuring and transformation of the bank." And indeed, they formed several partnerships. They launched a joint venture in Bradesco Seguros, Bradesco's insurance company, with Rede D'Or to provide healthcare services. They also partnered with John Deere, well, to boost their presence in the agribusiness market. We also saw revenue growth across all business lines. Every segment Bradesco operates in showed growth. There was an improvement in the spread, which is basically the difference between the interest rate a bank charges clients on loans versus the rate it pays investors or savers to raise funds. Here in Brazil, we have certificate deposits, CDI, with around 50% annual yield, while at the same time, if I want to take out a loan, Bradesco charges around 28%. Though in my case, they charge me 49% a year. Well, operating expenses are under control, and delinquency rates remained stable, with a reduction in the restructured loan portfolio. Restructured loans are those with lots of issues, Casas Bahias, Americanas, Americans, fraud here, losses there. Anyways, in the second quarter, BBD had a revenue of 34 billion reais, a strong increase over 15% year-over-year. The financial margin jumped nearly 16%. In addition to the profit increase and improved efficiency, the bank's total margin, both from clients and other sources, rose significantly. Fee and commission income rose more than 10%, and the insurance segment grew even more, nearly 22%. Looking at the loan portfolio, the expanded portfolio once again topped 1 trillion. It grew quarter over quarter and nearly 12% year over year. Actually, it didn't grow as much as it could have, since there was a slight decrease in credit issuance. We'll likely see a sharper slowdown in Santander's numbers, and probably later in Bank of Brazil, Banco do Brasil's as well. For individuals, the portfolio grew 16%. Micro, small, and medium businesses grew 25%. But for large companies, there was a slight drop of 0.2%. The biggest highlight again goes to rural credit. This is the segment where BBD is growing the fastest. Remember that 50% stake in John Deere? It's not just Bradesco. The whole market saw that the agribusiness sector, despite being cyclical, it's quite profitable. Bank of Brazil itself experienced great results thanks to this sector. The bank's financial margin grew 15.8% year over year. And the big highlight goes to the margin with clients, a 20.7% increase year over year. This is an area where Bradesco had been struggling in recent quarters. They were able to reduce provisions and manage delinquency, so net profit grew, but the bank's margin remained compressed. Now, after several quarters, this is the best client margin Bradesco has seen in a long time. Loan loss provisions totaled 8.1 billion, up nearly 12% year-over-year. But looking at the year-to-date figure, this increase is just 4.5%. It's not a major spike. It's actually very common. We see it in Santander, Bradesco, and in other banks. Provisioning expenses tend to grow. So yes, 8.1 billion, this is Bradesco's highest provisioning expense. But on the bright side, the quality of the loan book is still under control. Delinquency over 90 days, the most critical kind for banks, was stable quarter-over-quarter. Year-over-year, delinquency dropped from 4.3 to 4.1%. It's worth highlighting the reduction in problematic assets, those classified as Stage 3, meaning this borrower is never going to repay me. I will never get the money back. This reduction is really important because fewer problematic assets mean lower provisions, and fewer provisions mean I can lend more, and lending more increases ROE. Fee and commission income grew nearly 11% year-over-year. So far this year, it has grown 10.4%. The positive highlights were card income, which grew nearly 20%, consortium administration, up 21%, in the capital market segment, where Bradesco and Bank of Brazil are among the top players in Brazil, which jumped 34% year-over-year. Moving on to operating expenses, they grew by about 9.9%, so they increased at a lower pace than revenue. As a result, the efficiency ratio dropped by 2.4 percentage points, and whenever we talk about bank efficiency, the lower the better. So it went from 51 to 49%. That represents an operational improvement Bradesco achieved in the second quarter. Leaving the banking operation and looking at the insurance, Bradesco made a profit of 2.3 billion, a 4.4 increase year-over-year. So far this year, profits are up more than 14%, and return on average equity was nearly 22%. The insurance arm remains a giant. It brings in nearly 30 billion in revenue. In just 3 months, it grew its profit and remains highly efficient. The big difference now is that remember when Bradesco total profit was around 3 billion and most of that came from insurance. Today, the bottom line has grown significantly, over 6 billion in net income, because the insurance arm continues to perform well, while the bank operation has recovered. It's profitable again, and it's delivering returns above the cost of capital. So, Bradesco has managed to move past the whole situation, and it's in a position to pay attractive dividends. Dividends are rising and should continue to grow. For me, here in Brazil, at current prices, I'm getting around 7% net dividend yield after taxes. But for those who bought during the dips a few months ago, it's even higher, 8%, 9%. Of course, these figures may vary for you depending on tax and currency differences. My point is, making good purchases is essential, analyzing both the fundamentals of the company and its current momentum, in this case, a profit recovery. And when we look at the guidance, yes, there were revisions, but they were all positive, essentially growth in margin and revenue estimates, while maintaining expense forecasts. Thank you for watching. I'm a Brazilian investor, literally from Brazil. See you next time. Muito obrigado, forte abraço e até a próxima.